So I got to tell you up front that probably once I get rolling, it's going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose because I'm going to put through a lot of information. But I want you to know that you're here to hear what you need to hear. And you're going to be taking pieces of this, even though there's this much information, you're going to be grabbing little sections of what works for you. So we're going to start with a Buddha quote. What you think, you become. What you attract, you feel. What you imagine, you create. So if you think about that, that's in most every personal development book out there, including Science of Mind. So Buddha had the juice before a lot of us even knew who Buddha was. So the concept of this is going to be what we talk about today, and that's the frequencies that we put out into the universe, the frequencies that we put out to the law of attraction, and why sometimes that simply just doesn't work. So everything you do is manifesting. Everything you do is manifesting something. It's not about just the things you do on purpose. It's about the way you think, talk, and the way you live your life. And a great deal is what's happening behind the scenes. Your thoughts, your ideas, your emotions. Those actually have more power than what the belief system is that you're putting out in the universe. So today we're going to talk about what it takes to get that law of attraction working in a more positive way. Now, the law of attraction isn't picky. It's not picky. You know, you've seen the movie The Secret back in 2009, and it was this thing where you're pulling in the good. Next slide, Keith. Yeah. So we think of the law of attraction as this, but the law of attraction is also the bottom one. If you're not in a place feeling that you're deserving of what's to be coming, if you're not in alignment with what's to be coming, then guess what? The law of attraction is going to give you more of the same. It's all based on vibration. It's all based on energy. Because when you think about it, every thought is a vibration. You're going to attract what you believe you deserve. Now, you may think, okay, I want this, but if there's something behind the scenes that's not in alignment with that, the universe is going to pick up on that before it does the statement. And our brains are really good at allowing us to forget about the good stuff and focus on the bad. And why is that? That's what we've been taught. We've been taught in school from childhood, here, you made a mistake, and here's how you fix it. So what do we look for? We look for mistakes. We look for challenges. We look for problems. And because of that, we tend to not keep track of our successes. And that's the challenge we have. The good stuff tends to kind of be put in the back seat. We've been taught to put attention on our mistakes. Now, you see a tuning fork here. There's an interesting story about those. They had a situation one time where they filled an entire outdoor stadium ground with tuning forks, all different frequencies. And the tuning forks were set all different, they're all, I don't know how they work or whatever, but they're all different frequencies, obviously. And they had this field full of tuning forks of all different frequencies. And then way up in the bleachers, they took a specific tuning fork of a certain frequency, tapped it on the table or on the chair, and they had these things hooked up to a way to be monitored. And every tuning fork that matched that frequency vibrated way down there on the field. Now you would think, how did it hear that? I mean, how can you hear a tuning fork that far away? But it worked. So every thought is a vibration as well. You don't need to understand it or even believe it, but it works. This is a car transmission. Now, most people don't know what's inside of a transmission, but you know that when you stop at a stop sign, your car, is okay with that. And then when you accelerate from the stop sign, your car is okay with that. And as you get to the 101 and you get up to 80, 90, or 65, the car realizes that's okay and we'll make this work. And if you need to slow down, it does all of that automatically, and you know nothing about it. You know nothing about it. But when you get inside of that and look, you're like, oh my God, look at the intricacy in this thing. I have a friend that rebuilds these. And I'm like, geez, John, how does this work? I mean, you take that thing apart, how do you know what goes where? I can't put my toaster back together. So it works. The law of attraction works. You don't need to know how. You just need to know that it does. But when we put our beliefs and our our request and what we want out there and it doesn't come back in the way we want it, we tend to believe it doesn't work. And we saw the movie, The Secret. You know, the little boy wants the red bicycle. When he thinks about it, he takes a picture and he puts it on his mirror and he just engages himself in it and he gets it. Why that is because he's a kid that hasn't had a lot of preconceived notions. He has a strong desire and parents with money. So the bottom line is we have to not understand. We don't need to understand and dig into it. We just need to know that it works. Now here's what happens. We put our desires out there. We scream our desires to the marketplace. Not the marketplace, that's business. To the universe. All right? We scream our desires to the universe, and the universe is going to respond, right? The universe is going to say, yep, I hear you, here you go. Let's just give you what you need. But what we don't realize is we're actually doing this. And that is not the desires, but it's our thoughts, historic programming, self-doubt, and self-limiting consciousness that we're putting out there. Now you think to yourself, wait a minute, no, I put my desires out there. And you're true, you did put your desires out there, but these are more empowering. These are overpowering what those desires were. We have historic programming, thoughts, self-doubt, self-limiting consciousness. You know, we didn't ask for the belief system that we have. We were handed the belief system we have by somebody else. Parents, teachers, guidance counselors, whoever it may be. As we went through life, we were given a belief system and we're operating on that today. We don't think about it because it's unconscious, but in the background, that's what's happening. All of those self-doubts and uncertainties that are in our mind are overpowering what we're actually putting out to the universe. We don't think about it because they're unconscious. But how many times you think, I want this, and you really believe in that, but that little voice in the background says, yeah, but you know what's going to happen if you get that. And yeah, I don't know if you could do that because it's going to take this. And by you doing this, this could happen. And the next thing you know, you're not in alignment with what you're putting out there. And that's why many times it fails. And we have something called societal beliefs. And societal beliefs come in a variety of ways. These are beliefs that are put onto us by others. The first one is that of universal beliefs, which is the previous slide. That of universal beliefs. And there's tons of universal beliefs. That's okay if you can't get to it, I'll just continue with it. So universal beliefs are things like people are inherently selfish. Children are always going to misbehave. Money is the root of all evil. And there's hundreds of these, maybe thousands. But these are universal beliefs that we kind of grew up around, and parents maybe said it, friends maybe said it. And here's the thing, we buy into it. Why? Because we're kids and we don't know any better. And then we grow up as an adults, and even though we think we got it together, that's not true. I mean, money's not the root of all evil. We still have that unconscious programming, that unconscious authority running in the background. And no matter what we say, that's still running. And that's more powerful than the words we're speaking, sadly enough. Then you have the if-then beliefs. Oh, if I do this, then this is going to happen. If I try to do whatever and I fail, oh, that would be bad. If I express an interest in something, I'm going to get rejected. If I succeed in this, my friends won't like me as much. These things, when you read them, don't they look crazy? But it's what's in our minds. It's what's in our minds based on childhood situations, based on situations of the past where we were told something and we kind of bought into it because we didn't know any better, and we're still running on those today. You know, if a child is maybe 1 year old and there's a black stool on the floor and you say, that's a red stool, the child is going to say, cool, because it hasn't built what's called the critical faculty of the mind. It hasn't deciphered that color palette. It doesn't know. That child doesn't know, so it thinks that's a red stool and probably never talk him out of it. But as soon as he or she gets out in the real world and starts realizing the colors and what the friends, oh, that's not red, that's black. And next thing you know, they've developed that. And as that child grows up, all those things stay in place. And we're holding a lot of those things, not just the color palette, a lot of those things in our mind today. Then you have the personal self-esteem beliefs. These are pretty deep. We all have them. I'm not good enough. I don't matter. I'm not lovable. You know, I mean, come on, let's think about this. These things are kind of weird when you read them, but they're in our background. How many times have you thought, yeah, I want to do that, but I just don't know that I got the energy for that. And I think I could really do, but it's going to take so much time. I don't know if I have the time for that or whatever. And what happens is we self-sabotage without our recognizing it. Then we have something called the vibration of lack. The vibration of lack. I don't have blank. Oh, universe, please give me blank. What is this? This is starting from a place of lack. So the energy behind those statements is, I don't have. And when the energy behind that statement is, I don't have, the universe is, okay, well, I guess you're satisfied with that. Here's some more of not having. So we have to not ever start from a place of lack, but instead we're going to talk about what it takes to kick in 7 principles of the law of attraction that works. There's something called the spectrum of thoughts, and Jill will have this in her email, I'm sure, on Monday. But it starts at the top with all the good stuff: joy, passion, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation. And as you drop down, you'll notice these words tend to be have a little less strength. We get down to the yellow: boredom, pessimism, frustration, irritation, impatience. And then the orange: disappointment, doubt, worry, blame, discouragement, sadness. All the way down to rage, revenge, hatred, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. So what happens is we have this belief, we know what we want. But what happens is we're on that scale somewhere behind the scenes. Yes, I want, however, I'm a little frustrated that it's not coming the way I want it. So guess what? The universe picks up on that. I'm disappointed, I'm discouraged, I'm sad. I wanted this by February 15th, and here we are, April. What's going on here? So our goal is to always be in that top level. But we find ourselves, based on the history of our programming, our childhood, all the stuff from our past, that we tend to drop down in to those lower levels sometimes. Not to the point of grief, depression, or despair, but even if you're in the disappointment, doubt, worry. Doubt in and of itself is a killer when it comes to the law of attraction. Let's talk about the roadblocks. There are some roadblocks. There's nothing worse than a roadblock, right? You're driving down the highway, and you're on time. Everything's cool. And there's a road. Why? It's Monday. Why? Why didn't you do this like on Sunday? What's going on here? So we're going to talk about the roadblocks. First, we're going to talk about perfection. There's a few roadblocks that are in the perfection category, and the first one is that of achievement. You believe you have to get everything right or perform perfectly, or that you have to do everything yourself. And neither of these beliefs are possible to achieve. But when you find yourself having to get everything right, I'm somewhat of a perfectionist, I'll step up, that you have to perform them perfectly or that you have to do everything yourself, then guess what? It's impossible to achieve in many cases. So what you're telling the law of attraction, the universe, is that, hey, I got this handled. I got it all down. And what's happening, it's actually a roadblock to where you want to go. The next one of perfection is that of social perfection. Beliefs that you have a duty to make others happy or perform certain roles for others. You may feel that you have to subvert your own needs. How many people have fallen into that, right? I'm responsible for that situation, and I have to take care of them because they did this for me, and and my mom isn't doing well. I need to get on that, and my brother's ill, and next thing you know, they're all caught up in everybody else, and they put their own needs secondarily. By doing so, you're telling the universe, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. Just help me help others. Nothing the matter with that, but it's going to jeopardize the quality of your desires. And the final one of perfection is that of control. Chasing after impossible levels of control in your life and believing life will be better when you achieve them. You spend energy trying to achieve the impossible. Too much control. We all know people that are control freaks, right? She raises her hand. I was going to point to you. So So the thing about it is that the more we try to control, the more the universe says, hey, listen, you think you got it? Go for it. I mean, you seem like you got your act together. I mean, you don't need our help, my help, whatever it is, if it's a group. So anyway, it's that of control, that you believe that I have to achieve this. When I achieve this, I'll be happy. When I achieve this, I'll have the great relationship. When I achieve this, I'll have A, B, C. And you chase and chase and chase and chase and chase, and it never really shows up. I see it a lot with people with relationships where they have that checklist. The perfect lady is bup, 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 bup. And what happens is you find somebody that's bup, 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 and when this hits, you're like, what the hell is that? So you can't get that close to control. And next we have resistant thoughts. Resistant thoughts. Recognize and rid yourself of resisting thoughts, ideas, emotions, and events that oppose your desired intentions. Now that makes sense when you read it. But the challenge is most of this stuff that's challenging us, the roadblocks, are unconscious. They're the stuff from our past. It's that little voice that's telling you in the background. So it's easy to say, oh, just ignore that. It's not as easy as it looks. But the more you're aware of it, and the more you realize, wait, this is old programming. This isn't real life stuff. This is reflecting back to 4th grade when Mrs. Jones put my butt in the corner of the room. This is something that's outside of what's real. And once you realize that and start playing into how the mind works, you'll start realizing you can disconnect from it. So that's resistant thoughts. The next is guilt. Getting what you desire is never at the expense of anyone else. Guilt tells the universe that you're wrong, so you attract more of the same. How many times have you felt guilty? Many times in our lives, right? But when you feel guilty, you're telling the universe, well, I screwed up. I probably shouldn't have done that. And the universe is like, yep. So the goal is to not be, it's okay to feel a little guilty, but don't hold on to it. When you're holding on to the guilt, you're holding on to a large boulder that you're carrying around. The sooner you drop that off your shoulders and step up and say, I don't need to feel that anymore, the better off you're going to be. So let's get the good stuff. Those are the roadblocks, but let's get to the real stuff. The 7 principles, the 7 triggers that'll make the law of attraction, good vibrations. Remember that song? The law of attraction, good vibrations working in your life. Number 1, be expectant. Believe that you deserve and it's already yours. Be ready to receive. Thought is basically a distant hope, but expecting goes further to the physical sense of knowing. The physical sense of knowing. So if you're expectant of something, and guess what? It doesn't have to be on your timeline. You just have to be expectant of it. Know that it's there. It will be there. And the biggest one you always hear is, oh, I want $1 million. The universe says, okay, no problem. And you get it. You may get it over your lifetime. You may get it over a 12-month period. You may get it over a 30-year period. Who knows? But everyone at some point achieves $1 million status in their life, in many cases. So when you say, I want $1 million, the universe says, no problem, and you get it. You just don't get it on your timeline. Now, if you were to be so specific as to say, I want it on my dresser tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, that's not going to work either. But the goal is to be specific and have a knowingness that it's already going to happen. Be expectant. Trigger 2, visualize it done. Don't watch it from the outside, live the experience, immerse yourself in the scene, use all senses. God gave us many senses. How we hear, how we smell, how we taste, how we see things, how we feel things. So when it comes to visualizing it, it's not just seeing it, it's also those other things. Like, this is what I want, very clean, very efficient, I know it, this is what I want. How does it look? Can you visualize how it looks? How does it sound? How do other people sound when they're talking about it? How do you sound when you're talking about it? How do you feel about it? That's important. How does it smell? If you want to be a baker, then what? Guess what? The smell is important. Or if you want to sell essential oils, olfactory. How does it smell? The more you immerse yourself in this visualization, not just with the eyes, but all of your senses, the more real the projection is you're giving to the universe. So use all your senses. Trigger 3, feel and express gratitude. And we all do it to some degree, but not at the level we should. How many times have you woken up in the morning and expressed gratitude for your cup of coffee, or in my case, chai tea? How many times you said, you know what, thanks for this. I'm grateful for this chai tea. I'm grateful for the taste. I'm grateful for the fact that I can whip it up pretty quickly. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm able to afford it. I'm grateful for the fact that it helps me get my boost in the morning. You can't gain more if you don't appreciate what you already have. Recognize and express daily gratitude for the blessings you've been given. Not just that new car, not just that amazing thing you got at work, but the little things in life. The more you recognize and express gratitude for the things you take advantage of each and every day, the more the universe recognizes, you know what, that guy or that girl is expecting what we've been delivering, and more of the same will come. Trigger 4, have an abundance focus. Focus on having abundance rather than lack. We talked about lack. Acknowledge and accept that you have a true ability to manifest what you desire. We all have the same ability. But you see, some people, it just seems like everything they touch seems to turn to gold. And everything they do just seems to work out. Most of the time, they've dismissed in a powerful way all of those negative things. In my book, I talk about the story of a couple brothers who had a difficult childhood. And one of them was extremely successful, and the other one was pretty much walking the streets, homeless. And when they were approached and talked about their place in life, they both referenced their childhood. One said, I don't want to come from that. I don't want to be part of what I grew up around. I don't want to be the way my parents were. I just wanted to show the world that I could do something strong and something powerful. He went on to become a successful CEO of a company. And the other one, homeless. Why? That's what I grew up around. I don't know any difference. My parents weren't there for me when I needed them. I didn't know what love was. It was difficult for me. So have an abundance focus. Focus on that, everything other than lack, and you'll be okay with when it comes to that trigger. Trigger number 5, feel more, think less. We don't attract based on what we think. We attract based on what we feel, what our predominant vibration is. We're back to the programming as a child. We've all been programmed to believe a certain way. We didn't ask. We didn't say, okay, I accept the way you desire, to the belief system. You didn't have an opportunity to do that. You're a kid. Your parents were giving you the belief system based on what they had, and they got it from who they had, and it goes back to great-great-grandpa and further back, cellular level many times, most times, probably all the time. We don't attract based on what we think, we attract based on what we feel, where predominant vibration is. So the sooner you recognize that your thought process has a lot more to do with what you're doing than the little trinket you're putting out to the universe, the more you're going to realize, I need to be feeling this more, as opposed to just thinking about it. Trigger 6, honor where you are now. Formulate desires that feel doable, those you can buy into on the level of emotion right now. Don't get caught up in what it should be a year from now, or once I get it, I'm going to feel this, or whatever. Focus on the now. Think small if you need to. People get caught up in the someday I'll, and the someday I'll is more detrimental than it is a positive aspect of life. It's best to say, I know that I want this, I know that this is forthcoming, and I'm not going to put it on a timeline. I just know that when the universe feels I'm ready for it, it's going to deliver it. And be positive and feel more, think less, and play some of these processes in your mind of like, how does this childhood situation of mine, or how do these thoughts that I have that I'm not good enough or that I can't, how are these playing into this? And you'll find many times they're playing into it without your consciousness even recognizing it. And the final trigger, Trigger 7, back off and do something else. If you're feeling discouraged, don't spend hours in a fit of desperation. Don't force it. Take a nap. Enjoy nature. Turn on some high-energy music. There's times where you just need to disconnect, especially those of you who have control issues or have a situation where you need to have the answers at this point in time, like Diane. So the goal is to step away. The goal is to step away and do something else. I had a really crazy schedule the last few weeks. I was kind of down. I had a massive head cold and wasn't feeling well, but a massive schedule as well to get things done. I had to get this workshop in control. I had this client project to get done where clients are going on to new servers. I had a workshop to do for Banner Health, for improv, and a show coming up. We had a show last night, just a lot of things like juggling. And there was one day I got up and I just said, you know what, today's Joe's day, and to hell with everything, I'm just going to relax. And I put some, I don't know, I got in the mode of Earth, Wind, and Fire for some reason. So I cranked up Earth, Wind, and Fire on both Bluetooth speakers in the house, let it go, and moved around a little bit, did some laundry, and just shook it out, and didn't worry too much about stuff. And when that was over, I laid in bed, I got a drink, the dogs jumped up into bed with me, and I thought, I'm going to watch some television, and I watched some old 60s Batman and All in the Family. Let me tell you, was that fun? So I watched some old 60s show. It just, turned it loose. 4 or 5 o'clock, went outside, poolside, and made myself a little something to eat, had a glass of wine, just hung with the dogs, and just disconnected from everything for an entire day. Entire day. In fact, I stayed up till like 10 or 11 that night. And what happened? The next morning, I was totally energized, ready to go back at it. So there's times you just got to just get out of this, I got to get this done. This is the time schedule. This is, No, stop. Take a breath. Realize life's short. Take a deep breath and relax. Turn on the music. Take a nap, whatever it needs to be. Disconnect. This is important. It's from my book, The Unconscious Authority. The very last image, idea, thought, or concept in your mind as you drift off to sleep is repeated in your subconscious mind all night long. So if you're one that likes to watch a murder mystery before bed, CSI, all those bloody, gory shows, and you wonder why you're kind of waking up with a little sore shoulder or you're having stress in your life, that's why. And the examples I use is one time I was just nodding off to sleep and my phone rang and it was my neighbor lady. It was probably 11 o'clock at night. I don't even remember the time. And I looked over and I saw it was my neighbor. Hello. She goes, Joe, I just wanted you to know that there's a bobcat in the neighborhood and I know you have small dogs, so kind of keep your eye out. I said, well, thanks. Her name was Honey. Thanks, Honey. So I hung the phone up, and I thought that was nice of her to call and tell me that. I mean, I do have little dogs, and I don't know if bobcats would eat them. I don't know. But the fact that she called and told me that, I thought that's kind of nice of her. And I tell you, it wasn't 30 seconds after I shut the phone off. I was out. I was tired. I think I was probably half asleep when she even called. So about 3 in the morning, I hear all this ruckus outside poolside. And I'm like, what the hell's the noise out? What's going on outside? And I'm thinking, that damn bobcat. That bobcat's outside. So I went and I grabbed my flashlight. Of course, I'm still in my one-piece Spider-Man underwear. No. So I grab my flashlight and I go outside looking for the bobcat. And guess what? No bobcat. There was a little car accident up in the corner. It wasn't fender bender, nothing major, but enough to make some noise. But my mind, when I drifted off to sleep, was there's a bobcat in the neighborhood. And as soon as I heard the noise outside, it wasn't a conscious thought. I woke up thinking, I got my act together. That's that damn bobcat. But it wasn't a bobcat after all. But that was the last image, idea, thought, or concept I had in my mind as I drifted off to sleep. How many times have you needed to catch a flight early on? You had a flight at maybe 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and maybe you want to be up at 3:30. So you get everything organized, right? Everything's packed, everything's ready to go. And you're like, I'm ready. You know, I'm going to bed and I'm ready for 3:30. Wake up. Set the alarm, all that stuff. But when you go to bed, you're thinking, wait a minute, did I pack where's my underwear? You know, his car keys. I'm like, is Uber going to be okay at like 3:30 in the morning? It's like, wait a minute. And you're going through all this process before you're going to sleep, right? But what happens at 3:30 a.m.? I mean, first off, you have trouble going to sleep because your mind's racing all over the place. But once you do finally get to sleep, what happens at 3:30? You wake up. The alarm didn't even go off. You wake up at 3:30 and you look over at the alarm, you're like, damn, I didn't even need that, you know, hey. And the reason is because the last image, idea, thought, or concept was 3:30, got to be up at 3:30, got to be up at 3:30, got to be up at 3:30. Your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind, the unconscious authority knows that. And because of that, it puts it forward and it wakes you up normally within 5 minutes one way or the other. So those are two examples of how it works. So be thinking about what you're thinking, feeling, and believing during this time has a profound rippling effect on your state of mind, so use it wisely. If there's something you expect in your life, that's the time to put together the details. That's the time to process what exactly it is you want. How does it taste? How does it look? How does it feel? How does it smell? How does it sound? And be processing all that as you drift off to sleep. And as you do so, your subconscious works on that during the night. And when you wake up in the morning, oftentimes you'll have a different approach. You'll be like, wow, I kind of feel like I should be doing this, but I was planning on doing this. And you'll find yourself being maneuvered through a series of processes that you never really thought about before, but because of this process, the universe delivers the message you need, not necessarily, again, what you want. Okay, so practicing the principles, you know, Jill always has practicing the principles. There's 7. There's 7 of them. That's the 7 principles, the 7 processes we talked about earlier. And you could see the 7 we talked about. Number 1, be expectant. We talked about that. Visualize it done. When you drift off to sleep at night, what does it look like when it's finished? What does it look like when it's done? Feel and express gratitude. That's not just for the amazing things that happen in your life, but for the everyday things that happen in your life. The cup of coffee. The fact that you have a remote control for your TV. Hey, there was a day when you used to have to get up and turn the channel manually. But today I got a remote. You know what? I'm grateful that this little thing allows me to change channels without getting off the easy chair. Who would ever think to be grateful for that, right? Why not? Have an abundance focus. Feel more, think less. That's a big one. Honor where you are right now. Enjoy the little successes. You know, we all want that. But boy, you know, I got these 8 things that happened to me in the last week that are pretty cool little things that I kind of just expected and kind of knew they were going to show up. But instead, be grateful for those things. Honor where you are now and back off and do something else. Thanks so much.